Welcome to Jesus Changes Everything, a daily podcast dedicated to providing a fresh look at the ancient and glorious truth that Jesus not only reigns, but is busy about the business of bringing all things under subjection, that celebrates the wonder and the glory that he has been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Well, it's time once again to do another segment of our Curating Your Movie Library segment. Of course, most of us, including most of the things that we talk about, are not really in our libraries, but that we subscribe to a number of streaming services. And this was a movie that we're going to talk about today. And by the way, my precious wife Lisa is here with me.
Hello.
She watched this movie with me, and we both enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it's one we had not heard about, though it's not that old. It came out the year we got married in 2016, right?
Yes.
And it had some big names in it.
It did.
The movie's called Wild Oats. And some of those big names include Shirley MacLaine, Jessica Lange, and Demi Moore. Right? Was there any other big names that you remember?
There was Ptolemy. What's his name?
I'm sure it's not a big name if
Yeah.
you don't know it. This is a story about a woman who Shirley MacLaine plays, I think, a retired school teacher whose husband passes away, and she gets a check from the insurance company, not for the $50,000 that she was supposed to get, but for $5 million. And escapades begin to unfold because of that. Who was the guy that was trying to chase him down? That was a famous guy, wasn't it?
It was. That's what I was trying to look to see.
Who was that? Oh, it was Howard Hesseman, wasn't it? It was Howard Hesseman.
Yeah, and they have Ptolemy Slocum.
I don't know who that is.
I think that was who played Demi's husband.
Okay.
Yeah, well, they don't name Howard, though.
Well, Howard Hesseman was the insurance agent who was called upon to go track them down because they had traveled overseas and were enjoying the good life. Jessica Lange, who was the friend, and Shirley MacLaine. I really appreciated your insight, dear, about what kind of appealed to us about this. Do you think you can share that, reiterate that when you talk about just the actors and their ages? And
right, because there were so many famous movie actors in this film, but you weren't really focused on them. You were focused on the season of life that we go through. You don't usually ever see Demi Moore in a lower role of a kind of unintelligent kind of
mousy
woman.
girl. Yeah, it wasn't just, not only was it a small role, but it was a small role as a small person.
Right. And so I think the beauty that we saw was the real seasons of life that they're going through. Jessica Lange was actually dying.
Right.
And Shirley MacLaine, that played Eva, that received that check, decided she was going to treat her friend who was dying. Right. And some really neat things happen, even though they get caught, because even the guy who's chasing after them for the insurance, I think, ends up crushing on Shirley MacLaine.
Yes, exactly.
But it is a very interesting thing to see the seasons of life that we go through, and how everybody, you have an overprotective daughter, which is what Demi Moore played.
Right, which was
and
like
so
that other one we saw, dear.
She didn't see her mom as an individual. She saw her as somebody she had to boss around because she was getting older and wanted her to get a life call. And it's really kind of their comedy of errors of silly things.
But it's like this. If Bridesmaids is the girl equivalent of The Hangover, Wild Oats is the girl equivalent of Last Laugh. Remember the movie with Chevy Chase and Richard Dreyfuss that we not only watched, but we covered on, on the podcast? Yeah, there's very similar themes.
It's a great
when
comparison.
You mentioned the overprotected daughter and the person dying, it was just really
real.
Yes, it was real, and that it really,
and the roles changing,
and the again, it makes you think about your own stage in life and what's going on there, and
in your last hoorah,
Yeah,
I mean.
And your sort of bucket list
right.
kind of thing, yeah.
It was fun.
It was fun.
I mean, it was very uneventful in the sense that it did not yank your emotions around.
No.
You plodded along very calmly. It was a very calm movie, it was I would suggest that we watch it. I think it was a very enjoyable movie.
Yeah, it was. And again, clean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't promise that it's perfect. But it's comparatively clean compared to what we often get from Hollywood. And it really was a very nice use of these actresses. I really appreciate the insight that you had, because you aren't watching what you would call a star turn by any of these stars. And because of that, you sort of get to enjoy why they became stars, which is because they're good actors.
Very much.
And so, I mean, Shirley MacLaine, who I tend to think of as a very dignified woman, is playing just a profoundly middle-class person.
Who was a school teacher.
Yeah, because of that. I mean, she lives in a small town, teaches in a small school, lives in a small house, and boom, now she's got this...
big pocketbook.
Yeah. And just really, really well done. I would encourage people to watch it. And as always, we would love to hear from you. If you have watched it, if you're going to watch it, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Suggestions. I'll confess, we've got Hulu, we've got Prime, we got Netflix. So if you see something on there that you think that we ought to take a look at, we would love to hear from you.
Yes, we would.
Sweetheart, thank you for watching with me. Thank you for talking with me. Thank you for that insight. Your husband loves you.
I love you too, honey.
All right, baby. You don't have to hang around long with any egg-headed armchair theologians before sooner or later someone will raise the issue of Gnosticism. You may know something about what it means. You may know simply that it's an ancient heresy. But it might be a good idea to see if we can learn how this ancient heresy impacts the church today. Well, I want to suggest that there are at least two ways. One, most of us are on guard against, and the other we're pretty much oblivious to. One of the defining qualities of the Gnostic worldview is that it sees that which is material as bad, inherently inferior to that which is spiritual. This mindset may have had deep roots in the older fundamentalism that has all but passed away, the kind that opposed alcohol, cards, movies, dancing, seemingly seeing the evil in those things rather than in our hearts. Gnosticism spread rapidly across the Middle East and beyond in the 2nd century. Why? It certainly didn't come equipped with a coherent, rational theology, complete with a solid and sound apologetic. The truth is that when someone explains Gnostic theology, it's kind of hard not to giggle. It probably was then, too. So why the appeal? Well, that's the second part of the worldview that besets us to this day. Gnosticism did not spread through the bold proclamation of its silly doctrines. It spread through the appeal of getting into the inner circle. Their methodology was much like what you see in Freemasonry. You are initiated slowly into the group. With each step, more of the secret knowledge is revealed to you. As long as you continue to, quote, progress, you are brought further and further into the secrets, into the inner circle. In short, it appealed to human pride, to our gnawing desire to be among the elite who know the secrets that the great unwashed don't know. Here, the actual content of those secrets matters not at all. All that matters is that I know it and others don't. That, not the wisdom, sophistication, insight of what I believe, is what makes me feel special, set apart. And I can bring you in simply by presenting what I know as a secret that I don't share with many, that you have to earn the right to hear. To be sure, in the church in our day, we're not as crass as either the original Gnostics nor the Freemasons. We don't have, at least as far as I know, a secret handshake. But we do drop the right names to prove we're in the fraternity. We do display the right books to show we're in the know. We do tell the same knowing jokes that serve as a secret wink to prove we're on board. We have well-worn paths where people get saved among this group, progress to the next group that has a more robust theology, mature to the point that they're talking about Turretin while smoking fine cigars. And from there they look for the next new thing, which may very well claim to be the secret lost old thing. The antidote is humility. It comes from remembering that all that we have truly learned, we learned because we were fools. And He rescued us. We're not where we are because we're better or smarter or more insightful than the next guy. We are where we are because He found us dead at the bottom of the sea, and He has been leading us. We are where we are because even after He raised us from the dead, we wander off, and He searches and He finds us once again. We not only have no secrets, friends, we keep no secrets, confessing what is obvious to all, that we are wretched sinners, saved by the grace that was put on public display at Calvary for all to see. Last week at the RCSproulJr.com website where we post our blog pieces, I posted just a brief piece. It wasn't really a teaching piece, but a brief piece talking about this new project that we have going on here at Dunamis Fellowship. Talking about the Ask RC show. As you know, we've been producing now for a whole year this daily podcast, Jesus Changes Everything. And of course, we send it out over the internet to every possible place where one can hear these kinds of things, including posting them daily on YouTube. The last month or so, we've added to that on YouTube every day another program. We call it simply Ask RC. It's a 5-minute program that seeks to do three things. One, we're answering questions, and those questions that we're answering, we're hoping, are the kinds of questions that those out there in the world who are not a part of the body of Christ might find themselves in their curiosity or in their despair or in their seeking. They might find themselves typing in these kinds of questions. Who is Jesus? What is heaven like? Can my good deeds outweigh my bad? My hope is that when men and women type in those kinds of questions, they'll get faithful biblical answers, and I want to provide those answers. And so that's part of why we do this. The second part is to equip others with those answers so that they can give those answers where they're needed. That is, this doesn't only work through Google. If believers will learn these things, then when their friends who are not yet in the kingdom, when they're engaged in conversation with these folks, they'll have these simple, short, brief answers at the ready. These are not heavy books. These are not philosophical treatises. These are 5-minute answers. And that's sort of what got me started in this. I thought, brevity is something that I have some handle on. I'm not saying I've arrived, but I've got some handle on the capacity to communicate swiftly. I have a background in apologetics, having taught apologetics at the college level. Maybe, and I practice this in a sense, I interact with unbelievers in my work through Ivy Tech Community College. And so here I am, seeking to harness those things into this project. The third goal, however, is also to equip the saints with questions that the saints might have. I'm answering questions that an unbeliever is unapt to ask sometimes, that believers are apt to ask. How are we to understand the Old Testament in light of the New Testament? What is predestination? I don't think there are too many unbelievers out there wondering about what predestination is. I do think there's a whole world of evangelical believers out there who would be benefited by a simple 5-minute answer to that question. So that's what we've been doing. We are closing in on 50 such questions and answers. And I mention all of this today to you because, as is our habit, we are looking for people who can get behind the work that we're doing. Here are some things that you can do. You can go give a listen to these Ask RC. Just go to the YouTube website. There is an RC Sproul Jr. channel. On that channel, you'll find the daily podcast, but you'll also find the Ask RCs. I do post these once a day on various social media sites as well. Go give a listen and give a like. Share it. Subscribe to it. It's simple. And what that does is, slowly but surely, over time, as the numbers grow, it raises these answers in the algorithms that Google uses, so that when people do come looking for good answers, they'll find good answers. We'd ask for your feedback because it means so much to us. If you like the Ask RCs, let us know. If you think they could get better, let us know. If you have questions that you'd like for us to try to answer, send them our way. We would be delighted to hear from you. And of course, also, we're asking for financial support. Adding this work, this daily 5-minute show, to the daily Jesus Changes Everything and the daily podcast is exciting opportunity, but it is work. It's hard work. It's time-consuming work. Stuff doesn't just appear out of the ground. And believing it's useful for the kingdom, we're asking for citizens of the kingdom to come alongside us, to partner with us, and to support this work with their finances. Not everybody is called to be an apologist. Not everybody's called to be a podcaster. Not everybody's called to be a writer. But all of us are called to be engaged in the work of discipling the nations. That's what we're trying to do at Dunamis Fellowship. We're trying to live in light of the resurrection power of Jesus so that he might use us to bring life to those who are simply dead men walking. And that he would use us to empower and strengthen those who've already been given a new life. will you please prayerfully consider coming alongside and supporting the work of Dunamis Fellowship? You've been listening to the Jesus Changes Everything podcast, a production of Dunamis Fellowship, the teaching outreach of Dr. R.C. Sproul Jr. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we encourage you to subscribe, which you can do at all the usual outlets, to tell your friends, and to spread the word. To learn more about the work of Dunamis Fellowship, please visit rcsproulJR.com and join us next time on Jesus Changes Everything.